While understanding at times is important, embracing is even more important.
Hello, and welcome to Spiritually Hungry.
2025.
Yeah.
I think this is the first episode we're recording in 2025.
In the new year. We've been doing this
Actually,
a long time.
before we begin.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, good. You're going to shake things up already.
Already. Everything new. I think it's always good to have new things. So I wanted to remind our listeners, actually, it's the first time we're sharing this. Monica and I are actually in this next year made a commitment to share more with you on our social. So if you haven't yet, every single one of our listeners should pause right now.
Pause.
And it's my New York accent. And go to Monica's Instagram, which is Monica R. Berg 74, and follow and share it with all of your friends. There's a lot of great wisdom there, daily wisdom you can use. And also, if you want to go to Michael Berg 73 on Instagram and follow me and share with all of your friends and family. I am sure you and them, they will find important inspiration there. And it also helps get the word out about the podcast and about the teachings and wisdom we're sharing with the world. So very excited for that.
Thank you. I'm really excited about today's podcast. We are ushering a new year, and it's a great opportunity to check certain knowings that you might have or certain isms. I think that it's human nature to assume that we know things and we never question, like, well, what do I really believe about that thing? Or what do I really understand about that? So the conversation is really about spirituality and what is spirituality and what does it mean to be spiritual? I think that is one of the most misused and misunderstood words. And I think that most people don't realize that they are misusing it and misunderstanding it. I think most people think being spiritual is somebody who takes the high road, who is able to calm themselves, to be in a state of zen, of calm, of stillness, and to stay in that state, kind of, which is rare and almost impossible for most. And it's also not the goal. So what we want to bring to the table today is that, and this is what I love about Kabbalah, and I've always loved about Kabbalah, is that it is a verb. It's about change. It's about transformation. And I think that's why, you know, as the great Kabbalist Rabbi said, that out of 10 people who pursue this study, 1 in 10 will make it, right? Many people get up to a rung in the ladder.
Was that 1 in 1,000?
I'm more optimistic, I guess. But you'll get up to a rung, right? But who really reaches the top? And it's 1 in 1,000. Wow, scary. Maybe I'm more optimistic about our crowd and who I think of. But yeah,
hopefully,
the reality is,
and the point, and what he meant by that is that
it's hard and it's work and it's effort and
it's easy to be confused, because the other 999 who don't get to their ultimate goal through spiritual study and practice, it is not that some of them do, but most not that they forsake completely study or even spiritual work. It's just that when it's not done in the proper way, and I think as we'll share today, not done in ways that make us uncomfortable on a consistent basis, they will not lead us to where our soul came into this world to be.
And what happens is, though, you get in a state of routine, and the spiritual practice becomes stale, even though that's never the intention. And the craziest part is that we're not aware of where we're at. We don't think that it's stale. We don't think that we're living a routine life. We don't think that we are actually not living our days, that our days are dying, right? And so I think that's the shocking part. Most people are not even aware of it.
And not on our path to achieving the purpose for which our soul came into this world.
So exactly, this is what we are going to talk about. So you mentioned being uncomfortable, which again, especially with the study of Kabbalah, that is an understanding that it's in those moments of discomfort where we understand that this moment was set up for my perfection. It's a moment for me to actually discover who I'm supposed to be. And through this part of, or the process of being uncomfortable and struggling or being in a state of darkness or whatever you want to call it, when you go through that, right? And more importantly, spiritually speaking, when you embrace those moments, then you understand those moments were specifically created for you in such a perfect way. And if we step up and we take that opportunity and we see it as such, then it's the making of us. And then when we get to the other side of it, of course, if we do practice spirituality in this way, then we can see it clearly. But that clarity usually isn't there. So before we even go any further with this idea, I want to unpack what it means to be uncomfortable, because we're not talking about suffering. We're not talking about staying in a state of pain, right? And we know that every emotion, there's a meaning for it. There's a purpose for it. We're not supposed to stay in it forever. But I do want to talk about what it means to be uncomfortable.
If I can just add to one thing you said.
I'm inviting you to the conversation. That was an invitation.
Because you mentioned understanding, right? Understanding why it's happening. And I think that there's a paradox, an important one, in every moment in our lives. While understanding at times is important, embracing is even more important. So when we find ourselves in a struggle, when we find ourselves uncomfortable, when we find ourselves in the battle of life, it isn't so much that because of whatever I study or understand, I now understand exactly why this is happening or understand exactly why I'm going through this.
Because there's still a sense of control and head in that understanding, right?
At times that might be the case. But for me personally, and I think for our listeners, important to know that it's about embracing
and surrendering to
the uncomfortable, to the struggle, to the battle. And it's funny, as you said, I really want, what I'm excited, I always get excited when we have an opportunity to inspire our listeners to change. And I think it's important for you and I to what is the test for me and you if we're going to be successful today with our listeners, or even with one of our listeners, which would be great, is that those three words, uncomfortable, struggle, and battle, become three words, and more importantly, experiences that we begin to fully embrace as a beautiful, necessary part of our lives.
So let's talk about those three words. So uncomfortable, struggle, and battle, because that's going to be, that doesn't sound appealing to most people. Okay.
No, I mean, I have to say, even after all these years where I can't say it's appealing, right? But it is. But first of all, the good news, the good news, bad news, you're going to have all these three situations,
right? And most people run from them, and that's part of this conversation.
Or reject, or while they are going through them, fight them, which often doesn't change the situation anyway. What we're saying is change your consciousness about them and start liking them 1% more.
So here's the thing. I want to bring up a few examples to help our listeners really
although I think all of our listeners
to make it less scary though. Okay. So when we talk about discomfort, right? And this is why we talk about seeking change, being open to it, training yourself to be open to all of those things, because when you make yourself uncomfortable and you choose those, when we get those surprises, it's a little bit less jarring or painful. You already now understand, wait a second, there's something here for me that I need to pay attention to. So one of the great Kabbalists, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, it's written in the Zohar that he would travel from place to place, right? Throughout the days, whenever you read anything about him, it's kind of like he was here and he was here, he's walking in the desert and with a group of people. And you would think that like, you can't really affect change like that. Wouldn't he be more effective or successful if he was in one place and focused, like, right? That's how we like to approach our lives. We like to be in control, know when, how, where. But actually, the secret here is that there was no routine. And because there was no routine, there was the possibility of anything happening. So that discomfort allowed for great change and abundance and growth, not just for him, but for people of his generation.
Right. And it's a beautiful example. And there are many great spiritual teachers and sages that took upon themselves that practice of, if not all their lives, a large part of their lives in movement, so that they do not become routine comfortable. And I think maybe an important,
because again, back to that point was, with routine there's change. If not, even the most spiritual,
routine there's change.
With traveling and discomfort there's change. Even the most spiritual people, if you have that routine every day, like we make this joke a lot, right? If we are together on Shabbat, and you know, people love to sit like in their seat every time, right? And if they don't get it, they're really upset because it's not comfortable and it's the routine that they know. It creates a life of staleness. And I like that example so much because nobody likes anything stale. It's just not good anymore. You can't enjoy it anymore, right? If you open a bag of popcorn and it's stale, you take one bite and you're just like, oh my God, it tastes familiar, but I'm not enjoying this. I'm getting nothing out of it, right? If the air is stale, like it's this stuck kind of energy. And unfortunately, people stay in that space most of their lives unless they're aware of this.
Absolutely. And so a very important understanding is this: our growth, our light, our blessings, our real blessings are outside of our comfort zone. It's that simple. So you might be asking yourself the question, why am I not...
You have to say that again, because that's really important.
Every one of our listeners, your growth and blessings,
so your purpose, ultimately, like why you specifically came here for the most part, is
outside of your comfort zone.
Are those moments that are outside the comfort zone?
Well, no, they are always outside. That imagine.
Well, because you can look at like having a child, right? And that was a really great, important part of your life. And it's something you wanted. And I'm sure it's beautiful and there's love and there's exchange and there's 1,000 reasons why you have that child, et cetera, and so forth. But you're saying it's in those extraordinary moments that...
Well, they could be extraordinary, they could be ordinary, but as long as you are... No, but my point is even putting yourself out there in such a way, meaning I think it's important. It's a very simple equation. Where and how can I make myself uncomfortable? Because I know, and I ask myself this question all the time. While there is certainly place in our lives to have a routine, to have a plan, but I also am always asking the question, in what ways can I push myself to be uncomfortable? Because I know that my growth, my blessings, the purpose for which I came to this world is going to be in always pushing myself to the uncomfortable places.
Yes. But again, I just wanted to clarify because I think for most people, they tend to think that their purpose is in those moments where they feel good or they're successful. Right.
Which is beautiful too.
Which is important also. And there's light and blessings too. That's why I'm saying blessings is when people think about blessings, it's like, let me count my blessings, my family, that I have a roof over my head, right? That's how most people consider their blessings. But what you're saying is the things that you can't even imagine for yourself.
But even let's use
because I think it's important to clarify.
Let's use the example of blessings of family. Most of us, all of us, have blessings of family. If you want to make sure that relationship continues to thrive, you have to be making yourself uncomfortable. Whether it's with your children, whether it's with your spouse, whether it's with your siblings. If you're not finding a way to go out of what is comfortable for you in your relationship with them, unlikely that relationship will continue to thrive and flourish.
As much as it should or can.
As it's meant to.
So that's an important explanation. Okay. Another Kabbalist, Rav Ashlag, says that the Creator loves new things.
Yes, it's one of my favorite quotes.
And I love that because most people are like, well, what does that mean? And this is what the beauty of Kabbalah, again, is. It means things that are done differently, not as you did yesterday. So the greatest way to connect to your purpose or your soul, it's not what you did yesterday that you're doing today, but it's what you're doing today that you didn't do yesterday, which I think is just so profound, right? If we woke up with that consciousness every morning, how differently would all of our days look?
And it gives you a different
perspective,
direction in life.
Right.
I'm not looking to do the same thing.
Even if it was good.
I'm trying to find a new way to do, even what I did yesterday. And I have to say that, and it is important to have a spiritual practice. I have one. I meditate and pray 3 times a day. I study every single day.
Sure did.
But I
love it. Sometimes I'll say something to you and then there's like radio silence and I'll turn around and look at you and you're praying in the corner.
But I know, and I try to remind myself as often as I can, if not every single day, if not 3 times a day, if not 100 times a day, is don't do it like you did it yesterday. Find something new. Because again, it is simply, if I wanted to be more fulfilling, more able to awaken light and blessings, I have to be finding the new, even in what I have done before.
So I think this is a good point for our listeners to ask themselves this question: is your spiritual work or your day or your life filled with newness each day, any part of the day, all the time?
Are you asking yourself the question?
If not, write down what we just said and put that somewhere where you see it every day and you're reminded to really ask yourself that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, and I think those two, meaning newness and uncomfortable, are really one and the same, because a new action or a new way to do with that which you've done takes you into a new place. When you're uncomfortable, you're also taking yourself into a new place. And there's this ancient 1,000-year-old quote, which is one of my favorite quotes, which again, I try to keep in mind all the time. It's Aramaic, and they say, Lefum tsa'ara agra, which means the amount of benefit you will receive from anything that you do is depending on the amount of investment and difficulty it is for you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, think about your relationship, or think about your work, and think about anything that is important to you. The question isn't simply, are you doing it? But are you finding ways to do it that are more difficult? That's why we even use the example of sharing. We all know that doing an action of sharing is inherently, intrinsically a positive action. It connects you to light, it connects you to blessings. But there are two types of sharing. There's sharing that comes naturally, that's comfortable. And then there's
people you want to share with in the way that you want to share.
And then there is what we call transformational sharing that is done, that is uncomfortable in ways that you don't want, and maybe to people that you don't want. And without a doubt, the uncomfortable sharing, the transformational sharing, is the one that will benefit you the most. So,
I mean, even with children, right? I do this we haven't really actually spoken about this, but I do this with our kids a lot. Of course, especially when it's the end of the day and I'm tired and I think, okay, for instance, our youngest, who isn't that young anymore, but she'll, I'll put her in bed. She'll come back to my bed and I'll say, okay, just kiss me good night. And I won't go back to her room. And then I think and I stay in my bed and I stop and say, okay, what would make her really happy? Like, what would make a difference for her? So I walk back in her room and I cuddle with her for a bit, right? It's those constant ways of pushing ourselves that are uncomfortable. So in that moment, the only thing I want to do at that moment is go to sleep, right? And it's fighting that nature instinct to like serve yourself first in whatever the topic or the subject or the person may be.
Right. And I think this leads to the second word, battle. Well,
the second word was struggle. We had uncomfortable, struggle, and battle.
Okay. Let's talk about struggle.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine to go to struggle.
We just want to be consistent.
It's important. Actually, we want new things. So
you want to be inconsistent?
Right. I was thinking actually yesterday, as I was going to, I go here to the local center for the morning connection for the meditation and prayers in the morning. And I was thinking about this concept of struggle. Because we all have struggle. Again, it could be something small, it could be something at work, it could be something in your family. And sometimes we try to make sense of it. But why is it happening, right? So I had this vision. Each one of us is meant to be creating a new pathway, right? Let's assume you're in a jungle, right? And you have to create a new way, right? There's the trodden road where everybody else, right? The road less traveled, right? Or there's the paved path. That's not why we're here, right? Because whoever paved that path, and the 10 people, the 100 people, the thousands of people before me, the creator, the universe, does not need me to go down the path that everybody else has gone through. So why am I here? Why are you here? Why is every single one of us here? We're here to create our own unique path. So use that, with that in mind, you're in a jungle and you're not taking the path that is wide open for everybody else. You need to be creating your own. Okay, so you have a machete and you're cutting through the brush. You're cutting through the trees. So there are times.
You're saying even though there's a path already paved,
not
in the jungle, the example you gave, but you're meant to
create a new one
and make it harder for yourself.
Not make it hard. No.
Well, that would be harder.
No. Again, to be clear. So maybe I wasn't clear. In life, there are the path that everybody else, other people have created, right? But that won't allow me to reveal my unique light. My unique light is going to be revealed by the new path that I create through my life, through my actions, through my words, through my life here. So the vision that I had is the individual in the jungle, how do they know that they're actually going forward? Well, because the tree limbs are hitting them in the face, because they have to cut down a branch from a bush, from a bush that's stopping them. There is that struggle. If there's no struggle, it means one of two things. They're going backwards to the path that they opened up before, or they're not moving. But if you're moving, there's going to be a branch that hits you in the face. There's going to be something you have to cut away in order to be able to move forward.
So struggle is like opposition, because we talk about opposition a lot.
I just want to really, I would say, for me, this was very impactful.
But is that what you're saying? It's like an oppositional force?
It's an experience of a struggle. If you view your life in that way, that I am creating new light, I am creating a new path. And of course, if I'm taking a new path, there's going to be obstacles in my way. There's going to be the tree limb that hits me. And again, and if you're not moving forward, then you're not having to cut away any brush. You're not being hit in the face by any limbs of any tree. So not experiencing any struggle is not a positive experience. It's simply an indication. By the way, there are times in life where you're supposed to rest. Of course, maybe, after a day of creating a new path, you sit down and you relax. But in life, if you're moving forward, if you're actually creating this new pathway of goodness, of light that you actually came into this world to, of course, there's going to be things hitting you in the face. Of course, this is an untrodden path. Unlike in that example, it's not going to be so obvious. So I might wake up today and want to do something important, right? And then I got a call from somebody who really annoys me. So I might try to bifurcate what I'm trying to do with this annoyance. No, it's actually all one and the same. Mm-hmm. So then the next time, and this is, and again, I hope I'm being clear, because this is, again, for me, very impactful, and I hope for our listeners. The next time something happens that seems to be unrelated, right? But that's annoying. That seems to be upsetting. Why do I have to struggle with this, with that guy, with this person? No. It's all part of your path. And struggle, or the annoyance, however you want to call it, I guess depends on a matter of degrees, is actually the greatest indication you're moving forward.
It's interesting because this actually does happen to us quite a bit. We get these opportunities. And I know,
by the way, I think everybody does, right?
I know that usually I have an emotional reaction to it. I don't let it stop me from doing the work. By the morning, I'm thankful that it happened, right? So it just takes me a little bit longer, but there is that kind of 3-step for most people, if you're human, unless you're Superman Michael. No, there's something that you intended. There's a day that you envisioned or that you're working on. You feel, let's say, super inspired or creative, and you're crushing it. You get an unexpected call, or the power goes out, whatever the case may be. And then you're like, oh, then why did this happen? This is ruining it for me. And then you can either write the day off, or you can be upset about it. You can blame the person or blame whoever. But ultimately, I think it's such a beautiful thing you're saying, is that this is the day that I had. It's going great. This other thing happened. Excellent. It's part of the ingredients for that day, right? Very important.
And again, and what hopefully, and again, this is a struggle for all of us. Hopefully the next time becomes a little bit easier, because we say, again, this annoyance is not a unfortunate distraction from what I'm trying to do. It is actually a beautiful part of the path that I'm paving. And even though it's not about making sense. Oh, I see how this, spending 20 minutes with this annoying guy is helping me. No. You don't have to understand everything all the time, but just know that the appearance of struggle is a beautiful indication that you're on your path. Only a person who's actually doing important things is going to experience the struggle.
Right. Because the people who are just like, I want to be a nice person, I want to be a friendly person, I want to be a sharing person, you're probably not going to be bugged that much as a person.
At some point, yes,
but not as much as that constant kind of like somebody poking you on your back or your shoulder. If you're, if you're really if your soul was here to do something really great, or that you're destined for something, or you desire to really do something in that way, you should expect to have that opposition and that struggle. It reminds me of the biblical story of Jacob. And it's really interesting because there's 2 stories back to back. One where it ends where he is running away he's in darkness. He's running from his brothers. They want to kill him. He's destitute. His brother Esau. Esau, his brother. And then it picks up the next week, the story where he's like wealthy and blessed and married. And so I think in our minds, we think, oh, well, wow, that process is really quick, right? And I think that most of us want that kind of quick process. Something dark happens, something bad happens. What's the usual inclination is to either run away from it or run toward your next blessing. How am I going to make this better? So either you run away because you don't want it and you're trying to outrun it, or you run towards the thing that's going to remedy it. And like that story from the beginning to the end, it seems like it's immediate, but in actuality, it really took 17 years for him to get to that state of consciousness where he saw it as a great gift and he learned so much in that process of 17 years, whereas consciousness was able to change where he saw what you just said, the day that it was and the annoyance that came as one beautiful thing that's really meant to be married together. And so I just think it's an important point because I think for most of us, certainly if we had to go through a process like that for 17 years, we would go to the place of, am I a bad person? What did I do to deserve this? Why is my life so hard? Why is that person lucky? Why am I unlucky? Right? These are the conversations we have mostly with people every day. And if you change your perception of what is happening and you understand this idea that we're talking about today, I mean, it's really a game changer.
Absolutely. And I'm happy you mentioned Jacob because he literally, of the biblical stories, which are so profound and beautiful.
It's one of my favorite.
He represents struggle. They're probably the two, I was actually thinking about this, the two, at least for me, that inspired me the most. You will not find any great person in the Bible or anywhere else in life that did not have to go through struggle.
I want to know who your second one is. I have two guesses. Is it, well, I was going to say Joseph or David.
I was going to say King David.
Yeah.
King David. It's almost can be said that maybe the most important lesson that the Bible teaches, the Torah teaches, is that there is no path to greatness if not through struggle. Mm. And therefore we find, and Jacob is the one, maybe because he had this battle with his brother. And one of my favorite stories, as you said, is that when his brother wants to kill him, he loses his brother's son, his nephew steals all of his money. So he literally finds himself homeless, destitute at night. And it says that he felt that the whole world was arrayed against him. Like the whole world was like a brick wall that he couldn't penetrate, surrounded only by darkness. And from that moment is really where his greatness began to shine. And years later, it says that he battled with the angels. He got that strength not only to be able to do battle and defeat the forces of this world, but also the forces in the upper world. And again, Jacob, Joseph as well, King David, these are stories of people who struggled but, and this is the most important point, if we're successful in our podcast today, they never, usually not, of course, Jacob in the beginning, but as they progressed in their understanding and development, they began embracing the struggle. They began being joyous. And can you imagine? And this is again, my hope for our listeners today is that
they didn't run away from anything.
They actually embraced it.
They
felt joy because they understood that struggle or uncomfortability or battle was a call from the universe. You are a great person. This is your next level.
I love it. I found that super inspiring. So basically there's two ways, right? That's what we're saying. Two ways to leave darkness. You either, and this is the first one doesn't work. You run away from it, but you realize you can't run away from a situation. It never leads to light, or you embrace it. Those are really the two ways. And you know that whatever you're experiencing, the darkness, the challenge, it's there for your greatness. And I think, again, the mistake we make is we don't like a situation. So what do? We go to a place of worry, of doubt, of fear, of uncertainty, and then we battle that. And we stay stuck in that cycle instead of embracing.
So I wanted to share. So I wanted to share about battle.
Right, the third one.
And they're all related, of course. But battle for me represents the proactive decision that I need to change.
It's an interesting word.
Battle?
For a proactive action, because battle seems like a reaction. So let's
you're either attacked and you're in battle, or more importantly, you decide to go on the offensive. Mm-hmm. And one of the most important spiritual understandings, and this is something, again, we spoke about this a little bit in the beginning, but that very often people are involved in spirituality in whatever way, it's how do I use this wisdom, meditation, tools, prayer to make everything okay?
Or to get calm, what I want.
Or to get what I want, or to make everything calm and or zen. Not that there's anything wrong with all those. But the truth is that we're here to do battle. And the most important battle is the internal battle with our ego. And the reason why this is so important is because, and you and I have seen this, and this is true.
I want to pause for a second. Yeah. What's really interesting about what you're saying also is that, again, when people hear the word battle, I think the inclination is, I need to fight against someone or something. And what you're saying is that, no, it's the battle within.
Right. And I actually heard from a very important Sufi master who said that, you know, the word jihad, which of course in our world today has very scary and negative connotations, because it's used in many different ways, but that at its core, it was meant to indicate the internal individual battle against our ego.
Interesting.
Yes. But this is really underpinning, certainly in the Judeo-Christian tradition, that why am I here in this world? To do that internal battle. If I don't choose to battle today, what happens? My ego, my selfishness becomes stronger. If I am not constantly battling it, my selfishness and my ego, it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger to a certain point where I don't even have an individual,
no free will.
No more free will.
Yeah.
He or she becomes so blind. And there are many, you know, we've seen this in our own lives, even people who begin a spiritual path, but because they forget that the number one question they have to ask themselves in the morning is, what is my battle today? How am I going to proactively choose to battle my selfishness and my ego? They can think they're still on a spiritual path, but they fall so low into their ego. At a certain point, they don't have free will anymore, and they're completely blind to it. And they just go darker and darker into the hole. For us, for any person who truly wants to be on the spiritual path, you have to know that one of the most important questions you have to ask yourself every single day, how am I going to battle my selfishness? How am I going to battle my ego today? And by the way, by doing that, that is how you draw blessings. So I was studying this the other day, which I think is so beautiful, that, you know, we all want, most people want physical blessings, whether they want money, sustenance, success, relationships. The most powerful way to manifest all of those is not by meditating upon them or, you know, what's the manifesting them as people, you know, it is actually by battling the spiritual battle. And when you do the spiritual battle, the physical becomes easier. It becomes so much easier to manifest all the blessings that you want. By the way, you don't do the spiritual battle consistently, daily, the physical becomes much more difficult to manifest.
That's so interesting.
The struggle goes there. The battle transposes to there. Very difficult to win the physical battle.
Most don't think in that way at all. And if it's difficult to be that proactive where you wake up in the morning and say, show me my ego. Certainly life gives us colorful examples and opportunities every single day, right? Next time you get upset by something you heard, even if it's not about you or something that triggers you or whatever it is, stop and say, okay, there may be something here that might be somewhat true and that wasn't fair or whatever, something I want to change. But at the core, it's usually like ego saying, I'm really uncomfortable here. The ego, right? And even if you just pause, and I certainly do that every time something bothers me, I do have, you know, a come to Monica moment where I'm like, I sit myself down. What is really going on here? You know, where is it that it's about you or your ego? And then I can let go and I can see what I need to change. And it's a really, really useful practice.
It's interesting. I was studying something today, which I found so beautiful and inspiring related to what we're saying, is that when I diminish my ego, my selfishness, I give space for light to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't do that, the light has nowhere to go. So literally, the more diminished the more battle I do today against my ego and my selfishness, the more space there is for blessings to come enter into my life.
Mm-hmm. So the takeaway, right? The real question to ask ourselves every day is not what do I want to take? What do I want to go towards? Rather, what is the awesomeness that I see here and now? And I think that after I was thinking about what I wanted to share today, my new mantra, because I like to have a new mantra every year, is how powerful is this moment? And I just think that's just such a profound kind of like, I want to walk through life every single day, every step, the things that I enjoy, the things that I don't, and say, how powerful is this moment? Because I think that will ensure that I truly live it. And more importantly, that I truly that I embrace what is happening in that moment, no matter what it is.
That's really beautiful. And if I can add,
you always do.
One of my favorite quotes, when Jacob falls asleep in his dark night of the soul, and he wakes up and says, how awesome is this place? This is the dwelling of the light of the Creator. And that's exactly the point. If you truly begin to embrace the uncomfortable, the struggle and the battle, you begin to realize and live your mantra. How awesome is this moment? How awesome is this space that before I thought was dark and devoid?
I'm writing that down. I like it.
So before we end, I'd like to share a letter from one of our listeners. And by the way, as I'll mention this, but it really is true. Every time you send a letter, a comment, story, a question to Monica and Michael at spirituallyhungry.life, we read it. It inspires us. It inspires many of our podcast episodes and so many of our listeners when we get to read it to them. So please continue to send your questions, comments, stories, inspirations to Monica and Michael at spirituallyhungry.life. And here I'd like to share a email from one of our listeners. Beloved Monica and Michael.
I'd like to be called beloved.
Beloved. There's a beautiful Mumford & Son song.
Check that out. It's great.
Yes. I don't have words to express my deep gratitude for this amazing podcast. Every time I find myself anxious about a challenge that I have, especially when I have to teach, and I feel that I lost touch with the teachings, I put on your podcast and get deep and relevant answers that change everything. So what I want to tell you is that through your podcast, my students, people around me, receive messages directly from you to them in an instant. They are not even aware of that. The light is aware of that. I love you so much, and I find myself in tears so many times when hearing you. I feel so blessed for the merit to be able to be some kind of a channel for you guys in Israel. Love, Shaul.
Oh, I was like, who is this? I had a feeling. Oh, we love you, Shaul.
We love you. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you to all of our listeners. Again, reminder.
He actually does have a really nice way with words always. It's very like poetic.
Follow Monica R. Berg 74 on Instagram. Follow Michael Berg 73 on Instagram to get daily, many times a day, inspiration and wisdom, and share it with all of your friends. Also go to Apple Podcast, write 5-star reviews, share this podcast with everybody you know, so that the light that we reveal shines through you and to all of your family and friends as well. Wishing you an amazing 2025. And we hope that you enjoy listening to this podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it.
Stay spiritually hungry.